الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما أما بعد. For whoever has gained Allah, then what have they lost? And for whoever has lost Allah, then what have they gained? The reality of things when it comes to this weekly opportunity of going for Jummah, it's far more than quote-unquote just going for Jummah. Think of your Jummah as your job interview in a sense with Allah for wanting to go to Jannah. Think of your Jummah as your job interview with Allah for trying to go to Jannah. How does a person approach a job interview? Are they going to bathe beforehand? Of course, without question. They want to be clean and fresh because of how important that interview is. They want to look good, they want to dress their best, they want to wear the appropriate clothing. They also want to smell good. You don't want to look good and then smell terrible. You want both. You want to look good, you want to smell good, you want to feel good. You're going to prepare beforehand. You're going to show up early. You're going to give that interview its due as you should. That's what we're supposed to do. وَأَحْسِنْ كَمَا أَحْسَنَ اللَّهُ إِلَيْكَ. Even when it comes to our dunya, وَلَا تَنْسَ نَصِيبَكَ مِنَ الدُّنْيَا وَأَحْسِنْ كَمَا أَحْسَنَ اللَّهُ إِلَيْكَ. Even regarding our dunya, Allah says, don't forget about your dunya, give it its due, have ihsan with your dunya as you should. Have ihsan with your dunya as Allah has had ihsan with you. وَأَحْسِنْ كَمَا أَحْسَنَ اللَّهُ إِلَيْكَ. So there is supposed to be a very deep reflection going on here. When it comes to this weekly opportunity of Jummah, think of it as a benchmark as to where your relationship is with Allah. If you want to see your standing with Allah, then see Allah standing with you. If a person just doesn't care, if a person doesn't care about Allah, if they don't care about their Jummah, if they don't care about helping others, if they don't care about helping the poor, if they don't care about all of these different things, something has to change. And that's an internal reflection for the person. This isn't for someone externally to point the finger at someone else and say, you need to do this and you need to do that. That's not the point. That's easy. It's easy to point the finger at someone else. It's a million times harder to point that same finger internally and to look and to ask, how am I doing with Allah? Am I trying my best as it relates to the foundation, the 5 pillars? And then if that's there, if that's present, if that's solid and that's good, mashallah, then you build upon that. And one of the keys to having a healthy, a good relationship with Allah Azza wa Jal is Jummah. It's not just about Jummah itself and giving it its due. It's also about the preparation beforehand. What are we doing on our way driving to Jummah? What are we listening to? Who are we talking to? What are we saying? How are we using our words? How are we using our ears? How are we using our eyes? How are we using our limbs? What are we doing? What are we thinking about? Are we even preparing for Jummah beforehand? Or are we only thinking of Jummah as this window of time, and before doesn't matter and after doesn't matter, it's only about that window of time? If that's the approach, then that's simply not going to work. The Prophet taught us, ﷺ, if we can, to try our best to prepare before the 5 daily prayers. If somebody wants to go for any prayer in Jama'ah, in congregation, the Prophet encouraged us, if we want to get more out of that experience, to start investing in that experience beforehand. For the one who goes early to prayer, and they're prepared for prayer. Let's say they come 10 minutes early, for example. They pray 2 rakahs, they sit down, and instead of chit-chatting with people around them, they want to spend some time with Quran, on their phone, pocket Quran, whatever works for them. They're investing in that prayer before that prayer. The Prophet taught us that whoever is doing that, then it's as if they're in prayer. They're getting in the zone beforehand. And if you compare it to a professional sporting event, if there's a really important soccer match, if you have a basketball game, a football game, they don't just show up and play. You're going to destroy yourself if you do that. You have to show up early to prepare. You have to warm up. There has to be a game plan. There's so much more to it than those 2.5 hours, or however long it is. There has to be the preparation beforehand because of how important that is to them. And even before that and outside of that preparation, there's other preparation as well, because of how much it means to them. And then afterwards, there may be treatment, there may be an ice bath, there may be some kind of process, whatever is needed afterwards. It's not just about Jummah itself, it's also about beforehand and after. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Inna Allah wa malaikatahu yusalluna ala nabiy, ya ayyuha alladhina amanu sallu alayhi wa sallimu taslima. Sallallahu ala Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Specifically regarding the Jummah khutbah itself, there's the khutbah and the prayer. Specifically within the khutbah, we can't be talking to those around us. We have to be paying attention as best we can. The Prophet taught us, ﷺ, in general, that spreading salam with our words, with our actions, is one of the best and most effective things that we can do to make it to Jannah. The Prophet taught us, ﷺ, that not a single one of you will enter paradise, will enter Jannah until and unless you love one another. Shall I not tell you about something that will increase the love amongst yourselves? Afshu salama bainakum, spread peace among yourselves. This is a very, very important thing. Even then, within Jummah, within the khutbah, you don't say salam to people, because of how important the khutbah is. The Prophet also taught us, don't play with the pebbles in front of you during the khutbah. Nowadays, it's not about the pebbles, but it's about the social media and going through your phone and talking to people. The social media can wait, it's not going anywhere. Talking to your friends can wait, they're not going anywhere. The idea is to dedicate that time solely for Allah Azza wa Jal. Allah gave us 7 days of the week. Every minute we have is from Allah. And then Allah says, just give me 10, 15, 20 minutes, half an hour, depending where you go, whatever the case is. I have given you 7 days. But then we don't want to give half an hour to Allah and just focus on Jummah. And then we wonder why everything else outside of Jummah is helter-skelter and crazy, and why our lives are mixed up and flipped around and scrambled eggs and whatever. Wallahu khairul raziqeen. It's no coincidence that specific phrase is at the end of Surah Jummah and at the end of the passage in Surah Jummah that talks about the importance of Jummah. Allah tells us, وَذَرُوا الْبَيْعِ. Even if you have this extremely lucrative business transaction right in front of you, Allah Himself is saying, that is from me. Don't get it twisted. That's not from you. That's not from your business partner. That's not from whoever or whatever source. That is from me. Allah is telling us, وَذَرُوا الْبَيْعِ. Not just tijara, a guaranteed lucrative transaction. Allah is saying, leave that for me. I'll take care of you in ways you could have never imagined. I'm the best of providers. I am the provider. But then we think, maybe Allah's not really the provider. Let me forsake my Jummah for this or for school or for whatever else it may be. Allah Himself is telling us, don't do that. He is the one who provides. We dedicate time for Jummah. It's much more than that window of time. It is symbolic of our entire relationship with Allah. We ask Allah to guide us and forgive us. We ask Allah to help us to prepare for Jummah as best we can beforehand. We ask Allah to help us to give Jummah its due during the window of time. And we ask Allah to help us to also do good after Jummah concludes. It's not just about the khutbah and the prayer and not going through social media and not talking to people. It's also about what are we doing after Jummah concludes, between that time, between Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, and Maghrib. What are we doing in that time? How are we investing in the rest of our Friday? We ask Allah to help us to take advantage of that window of time as well. رَبَّنَا آتِنَا فِي الدُّنْيَا حَسَنَةً وَفِي الْآخِرَةِ حَسَنَةً وَقِنَا عَذَابَ النَّارِ. We ask Allah to grant us goodness in this life and the next, and to protect us from His punishment. رَبَّنَا آتِنَا مِن لَدُنْكَ رَحْمَةً وَهَيِّئْ لَنَا مِنْ أَمْرِنَا رَشَدًا رَبَّنَا هَبْ لَنَا مِنْ أَزْوَاجِنَا وَذُرِّيَّاتِنَا قُرَّةَ أَعْيُنٍ وَاجْعَلْنَا لِلْمُتَّقِينَ إِمَامًا. We ask Allah to guide us and forgive us. We ask Allah to help us and to heal us for any struggle that we're going through. We ask Allah to make it easy for us. For any emotional darkness we may be struggling with, we ask Allah to turn that darkness into light. For any hardships that anyone is dealing with, we ask Allah to turn those hardships into ease. Inna ma'al usri yusra. We ask Allah to show us that in our lives. We ask Allah to guide us and forgive us and to help us to go in the general right direction. And we ask Allah to accept our efforts and to overlook our mistakes. رَبَّنَا تَقَبَّلْ مِنَّا إِنَّكَ أَنْتَ السَّمِيعُ الْعَلِيمُ وَتُبْ عَلَيْنَا إِنَّكَ أَنْتَ التَّوَّابُ الرَّحِيمُ.